Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Smashing Skull Sessions review room. And I'm delighted to bring back Rich Bewley, Rich Murphy, and Tim Peenenberg. Thanks, lads, thanks again for coming on the show. Before we kick off, a big shout out to our sponsors, Rising Suns Brewery, based here right in Cork. If you're ever around, lads, pop in for some craft beer. It's absolutely stunning stuff. Right, no messing around, guys. We're going to kick off here. 6 reviews this month. We've upped the ante. And first choice, obviously I'm going to take credit for the first choice. It's mine, and it's a band called Green Lung. The track is Mountain Throne, and it comes from the album Heathen Land, which is due for release in November of this year. They hail from London. I will say no more a while. We'll just play the track and see what you think, lads. Until a pile of freezing fog, we find our way in the mud. Trudging on, tossing hands into the devil's work. On the black ridge we can feed, come the witching hour. When at the Wolfring Peak, we'll reconstruct the market tower. Out of the caverns, onto the moor. Through halls and passes we process toward the pinnacle. From subterranean to solid stone. Now we pilgrims ascend, we climb toward a mountain throne. So now bow down as the sapphires burn. Dim dyke and shadows have finally come home. From the devil's pulpit, the sermon holds on enthralled. At the Hexen altar, we heed our latest Right, lads, there you go. Track number 1, that is Green Lung, and the track is Mountain Throne from the album The Heathen Land, releases in November. Rich, we'll go with you first. What do you think?
I really like this track.
Yeah.
The sort of stoner doom type music, Monolord, Space Slug.
Uh-huh.
It's right up my street. I love it. I think it's very catchy. I have heard their other stuff before. This is about the third album, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, they have a demo, an EP, and an album. So this is their second full album. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoy them. I think they're really catchy.
Hmm.
It sounds slightly different than the first earlier stuff I've heard. There's definitely a progression there. It's not just repeating the
Absolutely.
stuff over again. But I really enjoy them.
Yeah, likewise, I'm going to echo everything you said there. It's really like, I love that psychedelic groove that's in it, that sort of galloping rhythm, and that I just fucking love that 70s keyboard sound that
Yeah.
creeps in and out of this music.
It's got a bit of Nawabum about it. If you go right
Yeah.
the way back to the beginning, it's got that sort of early 80s vibe to it.
It has. I just love sort of hearing little nuances of stuff like that. Really gives it a bit of character. It gives this track a bit of character. First hearing it, I was thinking, again, I'm a Baroness fan, so I was hearing sort of lead guitars that were similar to Baroness.
Yeah.
And the rhythm guitars, right, I thought were very, very Iron Maiden. Like, did you get that at all?
That's where I got the sort of Nawabum stuff from. It's that early
Yeah.
it's that Baroness, it's Elder, it's all that sort of stuff thrown together in a mixing pot, and you can see all their influences coming out.
And even the vocals, I mean, his vocals are almost Bruce Dickinson like. He's so clean and he reaches some great notes. Like he's an incredible vocalist.
Yeah, it was a really good track. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It went on repeat a few times. That's the biggest praise I can give it.
Mine's the same. No, it was in the car because it's such a short track and I have a short commute. This was an easy one for me. Play with the windows down and windows down in Ireland. Like, for fuck's sake, come on. I need to have a duffel coat on me while I'm driving. Hopeful is right. Yeah. So yeah, Tim, anything just to add to that?
That made me think a little bit of Audrey Horn from Norway.
Okay.
A little bit the same catchiness and the vocals. So that was a bit reminded me of Audrey Horn.
Nice angle come from, a bit different. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, all in all, so that's great track.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the album. Love their vibe, love their sound, and it's a fucking thumbs up here. And I'd say that's all around.
We saw a few T-shirts at Arctangent, didn't we, Rich? I think Green Lung, which I mean they weren't a band that I was familiar with prior to seeing the T-shirts. We had a quick conversation, and Rich filled me in because not one I was familiar with, to be honest with you. But I definitely get the Iron Maiden thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always a good thing.
Always.
Surely be to God, be the Maiden influence is a good thing. Right, as we move swiftly along to the second track, and our second track comes from a band called Umoora. They hail from Switzerland. These guys were in touch with me a couple of weeks ago, and listened to their track. It's incredible. Track is called Kong, comes from the album Splitter. Let's play a bit of it and see what you think, lads. So there you have it, guys. That's Umoora. The track is called Kong from the album Splitter. They hail from Switzerland, and I think on their Bandcamp page they stated they have heavy riffs, and rhythms meet cathartic melodies, instrumental rock that roars and rumbles but never destroys. I think that just about sums these guys up. Tim, let's go to you first. What did you think of that track?
Yeah, the description is fitting, I think, and to me, I like my music that destroys.
Yeah,
like I like the build up, and then there's the climax. But what I really especially liked in this song is the drums. I think they really push the sound up front. A bit like when you see Russian circus live, you know, the drummer really pushes the sound.
Yeah.
I think it carries the sound, and I had the same vibe with this song, and it was especially what I really liked in this song, and overall a great song. I think.
Yeah. And you picked up the drums. Like what I picked up was the guitars, and which is mad, isn't it?
Yeah,
I just think that patient, slow build and that lush wall of guitars when they hit you, like, it's just a beautiful thing. I think the guitar tone itself, just great heft behind it, but very clear, very crisp, which is what I like in my post-metal and my post-rock. I know there's a time for fuzzy, distorted guitars, but these guys really hit the nail on the head here with their sound. Bit melancholic, which is always a good thing when you talk about post-rock and post-metal.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a big thumbs up for me anyway. What do you think, Rich B?
Yeah, more of this, please. Basically, I did notice it had been released, I think, November last year.
Yeah,
but yeah, it certainly passed me by at the time. So I'm glad that they, they asked for inclusion and we're pleased to include them because it's quality.
exactly.
It's a beautiful opening. That guitar line is absolutely the sort that has me all misty-eyed and wistful from the first moment. It's quite gothic in its intro. And when it kicks in, it's perhaps a bit more sludgy and claustrophobic than the intro would have given a clue to. I was expecting it to be a bit more open and a bit more epic, and it was a bit more, sludgy, chuggy. I don't know what the word is to describe it, because there's some pretty upfront riff in there.
There is.
I agree with Tim that the percussion's pretty upfront as well. It's a fairly up-tempo rhythm for, well, whether it's post-rock, post-metal, it doesn't really matter. Probably want to hear the rest of the album to see how this kind of fits in with the rest of their sound. But certainly a promising introduction to a band I didn't know previously.
This is their first release, as far as I know.
Is it?
Rich? Yeah, it is. So
continues our fixation on the review room with Swiss post-rock bands as well, because I think we've featured 3 or 4 already.
I think we're on number 4 already. Yeah, it's mad.
Yeah,
right,
so
maybe 5 actually on three shows. Yeah.
Yeah, so all thumbs up from me, most definitely.
Absolutely. Myself as well included. Tim, you're on board. Yeah, we can't wait to hear more from you lads. We're more than welcome on the show anytime. That track is Kong, album splitter. Hit your Bandcamp page, guys, and give them a bit of support. Right. Third track to bring up. I suppose I'll let Rich Bewley introduce this one. It's one of your choices, isn't it?
If you say so, yeah.
Is
it Mairu?
It is indeed. Sorry, I should have half introduced it maybe.
No, that's fine. So these guys, Mairu, Mairu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I've never heard it out loud until now, so we'll go with that. 4-piece from Liverpool, specialising in what I would call pretty doomy post-metal. I came across them for the first time, I think, 4 years ago when they released their debut EP, which was called The Sacred Dissonance. Debut album Soul Cultus, which means Praise the Sun, don't you know? Came out on July the 28th. Trepanation Recordings. I couldn't tell you who else is on there, but I know the label.
Great label, yeah.
And this is track 2, which is called Perihelion, which, being not a walking encyclopedia, I had to look up. And apparently, it's the point in the orbit of a planet or space object at which it is closest to the sun.
You didn't know that?
Just in case, I hear Rich say correct as if he knew before.
Well, I am halfway through astronomy degree, astrology.
In your spare time, this is
my spare time.
In between your 90-hour working week, you're doing an astrology degree. Why am I not surprised? Yeah. So that definition is correct, is it? Oh, good. So this is absolutely one of the best tracks I've heard in this genre for some time. So hopefully enjoy.
High praise indeed. Let's have a listen, lads. Right, lads, there you have it. That's Mairu. That's Rich B's choice. Track is Perihelion. Tim, let's go to you first on that one.
Yeah, I really like the song. Especially the song before. I really like the drums, and in this one, in this song, I really like the bass sound. You can really hear, and it's also the production is of the sound. I think it's very great. It's very thick, and the bass is really in there, and I really like that. It has a nice build up with exploding heavier part, and then goes mellow again, quiet again, and explodes again up until the end.
Yeah,
found it very interesting. Great song. And you can hear from the beginning and the way they play and the sound. This is going to be quality.
Yeah, I know.
This was the first that my impression of this is going to be quality. Somehow you have that impression immediately. So cool.
Very good, very good. Rich B.
Yeah, I agree with Tim. I will back up what I've just said before we heard the track. It's probably as powerful and majestic as post-metal crescendo as I've heard all year. I use the phrase "it's right up my street" quite a lot, and this just hits all of my sweet spots when it eventually kicks off. It's quite a long build, about a third of the track actually, because it's probably 6 minutes, and the intro's 2 minutes before it breaks down, and then when it explodes monumentally for me. I was listening it through my best pair of headphones the other day, and yeah, I was nodding along quite happily. It's definitely the most post-rock sounding track on the album, which I've spent some time with over the past, it's been out for about a month. I think it came out back end of July. And that's obviously why I picked it, because that's kind of the post sound that I enjoy. The rest of the album is excellent too, but it's more intense doom. There's some sludge in there. There's 2 or 3 atmospheric ambient tracks lasting for a minute or so. So, there's a lot of variety, but they are a talented band. And again, I agree with Tim. From the moment this particular track begins, you're in for a treat. Which for a band that are only on, this is their debut album, and I think they've released 2 EPs previously, and they're only 4 years in, maybe 5. This sounds like a band far further into their career for me than a couple or 3 releases. So sure. Yeah,
well put, Rich. Yeah.
For a debut full length, it's hugely impressive.
I just, the quality of music coming through at the moment. You mentioned 4 or 5 years. Where bands have got to know with their sound, is it technology is helping or what? I don't know, but man, they're hitting it big time, aren't they? Bands lately, it's quality is definitely being released as quality material. Rich M, do you want to add to that? Actually, that one.
I think the other 2 guys have covered most of the points I was going to make. Really, it's definitely not a song you need to let grow on you. It does, like the guys have said, straight away. It hits you that this is something really good and worth listening to. The build on it, the crescendos on it, really well done. Tim mentioned the production. The production's really good on this track. I really enjoyed it. I like the sort of doomy guitars in it. So for me, again, it's got everything. And like Rich, I've listened to the rest of the album, and the tracks are quite varied. There's quite a lot of different stuff in there, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'll be looking forward to hearing more from these.
Yeah, like that intro, lads, just very briefly, that intro you mentioned is long, but there, as you mentioned off air we spoke, there's an atmosphere within it, isn't there? There's something keeping you there. Some bands could play a 2 or 3 minute intro and lose you, and you just don't go any further. But there's something there.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed.
Brilliant, fantastic. Right, there you go, lads. Mairu, Perihelion from the album Sol Cultus, hailing from Liverpool. Brilliant, lads. Great stuff. Tim is next choice. Tim, do you want to introduce your track?
Yeah, for this week, I thought let's go for something completely different.
Yes.
Other than all the black metal mayhem, like my input last time, none. So
which went down well, Tim. By the way.
Yeah. So that's very good, very cool. Something completely different, melodic hardcore. As friends, Rust. And the song is No Gods, Some Masters. Sorry, No Gods, Some Masters.
Yeah, perfect.
That's it.
Let's give it a spin, so Tim, and see what we think of it. Here you go, lads. As friends, Rust, No Gods, Some Masters.
I'll speak my heart long as it throbs against the sorry, mindless mobs. This mic is not a choice. I've got to use my voice as long as it don't cost my job. We care, but not so much. We fight with lightest touch. It's easier to leave things be. When we're all going to die, it's hard remembering why we're out here feigning empathy. You're goddamn right, I ain't no quitter. We must not let our hearts grow bitter. I wear mine on my sleeve, march for what I believe. I just can't find a babysitter. We care, but not so much. We fight with lightest touch. It's easier to leave things be. Yeah. When we're all going to die, it's hard remembering why we're out here feigning empathy. We care, but not so much. 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 Oh,
So there you go, guys. Another track for us. That's As Friends, Rust, No Gods, Some Masters. These guys hail from Gainesville, Florida. Melodic punk, hardcore. Not my scene usually, but I really, really dig that track. I love the atmosphere. I love that bass line, Tim, through that track is fucking class. It really is. Again, when it opened up, I immediately thought Billy Talent because I'm limited when it comes to this style of music. But I went through a phase of Billy Talent for maybe 2 years where I obsessed over him. So I hear the same guitar tone in these guys' riffs. But the vocals, I love the vocals. They're a real surprise to me, that gritty, gravelly vocal, which I wasn't expecting after hearing the riff. I was expecting a clean vocal. So I love the track. Not my usual go-to stuff, but again, it's quality release. Yeah. Rich M, what do you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I've not listened to much melodic hardcore, if I'm honest, but this was really catchy. It sort of got into you, so without realizing it, you sat there and in with the rhythm of it. And again, the vocals were great.
Yeah.
Guitar sound was really, really good. I did enjoy it. I couldn't quite put my finger on who it reminded me of. A few bands went through my head, but none of them really stuck. But yeah, I did enjoy this.
That's a good thing, Rich, isn't it? If you don't immediately compare a band to a band, do they bring something unique?
standing on its own already. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this.
Tim, have the final word.
Yeah, what I like, like you said, I like the vocals also, and in this song, but on this band, he really sings more, sometimes more aggressive, and combined with melody. But his other band, and maybe that's something Rich B also likes, is more Damien Dunn, and he released also an album this year, and it's more post-punk wave sound, and there he has a much more warmer tone in his singing, and I really like his vocals, and in this song I really like also a bit the irony in the lyrics, right? We want to save the world, but only 9 to 5. Brilliant. A little bit sarcastic, you know.
I like it.
I like the pun in that, or maybe the critic.
Yeah, I like it.
It's not that I play this every day, you know.
That's what I was going to ask Tim. How did you pick this track? How did this come out of all the music that you listen to?
I followed this band a couple of years now, through some songs I heard, but and then I listened to the Damien Dunn album, and for this review, I only made the link that this is the same singer. I found it simple, and I looked it up and said, it's the same singer, but he uses the vocals really different. So yeah, therefore I think I'm gonna follow this band some more. The new album is coming out, I think next month.
Excellent stuff.
So I'm curious.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. When it's nice to mix things up. You can get swamped into this post scene and all that, and you can tend to go down one fucking passageway and not come out of it for months. So it's nice to be thrown, and this is what this show is all about.
There are many rabbit holes, and I've been down a few.
Yes, indeed, we all have. Yeah, some people have yet to come out of the first one, but anyway, we're all good. Okay, lads, that's that track. That was Tim's choice, of course. That was As Friends Rust. No Gods, Some Masters. Lads, thumbs up all around again, I think.
Yeah.
Right, we'll move swiftly along. Next track. These guys got in contact with me as well, maybe about 2 weeks ago. Obsidian Tide is the name of the band. Halo Crusher is the track, and it's coming from their album, The Grand Crescendo, which was released 2 days ago, the 29th of September. Hailing from Israel, Tel Aviv, founded back in 2012. We'll keep all the rest of the information till after the track. Have a listen.
Letting the anger take root inside me, giving into the voices beside me, watching the halo crusher take over, dousing the flame of hope. Surrender to the abyss, embracing chaos itself. The halo crusher
Guys, so there you have it, and slipped the tongue there before we came on. This track is the 29th of September, which hasn't happened yet. I haven't traveled in time. So it's a month away, roughly 4 weeks away. As I said, Obsidian Tide, Halo Crusher is a track from the album The Grand Crescendo, hailing from Tel Aviv, lads. These guys were founded in 2012, and they've been around for a bit, I suppose. And I think this is straight up progressive death metal. Would I be right in saying that, Rich B? Would you agree?
Yes, I think that was the description that I found on their Bandcamp page, and probably without looking at that is how I would have described it myself. It's certainly a combination of the two things. It's almost prog rock melded with death metal.
Yes.
I found the opening a bit chaotic, and I was thinking this is going to lose me straight away. And then it opens out at around 40 seconds into sort of something quite progressive with a nice guitar lead, and I thought, okay, I can get along with this. And then I was not at all expecting the really clean, almost folk-like vocals that came in, especially with a title like Halo Crusher and a band name Obsidian Tide. I was expecting full-on death or certainly, a heavier sound than those vocals were giving. And then the harsh vocals surprised me on top of that. And the combination the contrast between the two vocals kind of works at that point, but in isolation, they just sound not right for this track. Maybe the harsher vocals do.
That's interesting, Rich, because I said the same thing here on my notes. I could do without the clean vocal. It's not for me. It's just too clean altogether. Yeah. For the style of music that it is. Love the harsher growl, but when the two of them come together in contrast, as you said, they mix well. Especially when.
So, I mean, we've mentioned Opeth, which is a band that I'm ashamed to say I'm not familiar with, but as I've said before, I've come from a very different route to this chair. So personally, it's the biggest contrast I've heard between progressive rock and death metal in the same song, which apparently is something that Opeth are the past masters at. I would say I'd go and immediately seek their music out, but based on this track, I'm not sure I would. I'm not sure it entirely hangs together. I'd have to hear the rest of the album to understand where this track is in relation to the rest of their music on the record. But to me, it sounds quite original. But then, you three might list a whole load of bands that,
Like, I think there's no denying the influence here of Opeth. It's all over the tracks, right from the phrasing, the change in vocals, the soft acoustic doodling that brings you back into those heavy riffs. Then again, I won't say it's copy and paste Opeth, but it definitely reads from their hymn sheets, which isn't a bad thing if that's your style and that's what you're into musically. Obsidian Tide, if you're not a fan of Opeth, this album is for you, because it's the same stuff, really. It's played well. Again, take away that clean vocal, I just think it just needs to be a little bit nastier. But other than that, I actually still like the song. I like bands bring in different instruments, and I love that amorphous Tales from a Thousand Lakes sound. But I don't even know what instrument it actually is. Or it could be just synths, but it just brings another dimension to the track, which I really enjoyed. So these guys aren't afraid to experiment with their own sound, but they are pigeonholing themselves definitely within that progressive death metal genre, and especially with the Opeth tag, I don't think they'll shake that off for a while unless they change something drastically. But lads, I enjoy the track. Thanks for sending it to us, and hope we're constructive and helpful in our review of it. Anyone else add to that track, lads? No.
No, I think you said it.
All good. All said. Brilliant. There you go. So that's Obsidian Tide, Halo Crusher, the Grand Crescendo on the 29th of September. Hailing from Israel, lads.
Which hasn't happened yet.
And lads, we wish you all the best with that release, okay? Last track for the evening. I'm going to leave introduction to Rich M himself. It's his track. And take it away, Rich.
Yeah, the last track is from a band called Dead Neanderthals, who are Dutch, who've been around for a long, long time. But this is the second thing that they've done with Scott Hendrick from Skeleton Witch, the guitarist. They did an album called Ghosts in 2019. This is from Spectres, which has been out since the beginning of August. And this is a track called Necrology.
Great stuff. Let's have a listen. Right, lads, there you have it. That is Dead Neanderthals, and the song is Necrology. It's nearly 18 minutes long. Powerful track, lads. I'll let Tim kick us off on this one. Tim, work away.
Let's start with the Dutchie, right? If it ain't Dutch, it ain't much, right? But I have to honestly say, I never saw them live yet. So I really hope to see them once at Soul Crusher Festival or Samhain here in the neighborhood. I find a very, very cool song, very interesting. I love it when songs have a duration of 17 minutes and plus. I really love the repetitive pattern, the drone-like sound and rhythm in it, and the almost jazzy drum pattern underneath it, and with little rhythm changes during the 17 minutes or 18 minutes. Yeah, and it's got a lot of layers.
They're subtle, aren't they? Those changes, those pattern changes, you said, are very subtle.
Very subtle, yeah. So I think I listened to the song 4 times in total, not after each other, but in total. So, and each time you hear a different little layer or different, something extras you discover, and in that wall of sound almost. So, but I think it's cool.
Great stuff, brilliant,
nice.
Great, Tim.
Yep.
Rich B.
Yeah, I mean, according to what I've read and what Rich M has told me, these guys are meant to be a 2-piece, and it sounds as if there's about 4 people playing the drums for a start. So I'm not sure how that works. It's 17 minutes and 51 seconds of head spinning psych for me, which I'm a big fan of. It's the sort that requires 100% commitment, a darkened room, a good pair of headphones. Close your eyes. You've got to be in the right frame of mind. It's a sort of sonic experimentation that I fell in love with in the sort of late 80s, where bands like Loop, Spacemen 3, the Telescopes were sort of taking guitars and, feedbacking them and then melding that feedback into something like this. It's a bit more rhythmic than the sort of stuff those guys were doing, but it did remind me of that sort of 80s psych revolution that happened, which obviously influenced a lot of bands that I enjoy these days. But I think these guys are heading for a deeper, darker part of the cosmos, where Loop and the likes remained relatively earthbound, because within Loop's output, you could kind of pick out a song at least. And I wouldn't certainly describe this as a song or even a track. It's a passage or a drone or something. But I really enjoyed it. I don't think it needs to be 18 minutes because there's not a lot of variation in the sonic dynamics throughout. There's a little bit at the end, which I enjoyed. But maybe there's a radio-friendly version lasting 12 minutes, which I can get, which I can enjoy. But yeah, maybe that's the point. Maybe Perfect. It's 18 minutes and that's the point.
Yeah, Richard.
But yeah, good for me.
I think the 18 minutes is the point, because for me, I'd describe it as drone metal, and drone is meant to drone on for a significant amount of time. I think it's different than a lot of stuff that Dead Neanderthals have done. It's very different than Skeleton Witch, so it's good to see the two come together in something that's somewhere in between, I would say. It makes me think of the drone of people like Swans or anybody that does that sort of repetitive, Sono, whoever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. The other track on the album, because there is a second track on the album, which is even longer than this, actually, it's about 18 minutes 40, is very different. It's a lot more sludgier, doomier type of track. So it's not like there's 2 similar drone on the album, so I'd say check that one out as well. But,
and how would you compare those 2 tracks, Rich, if you were to put them back to back? Which would be a favorite?
I would say this one, which is why I picked it, but they are very different. It would depend what you're doing and what mood you're in. I mean, for me, music can be a mood because I listen to so many different genres.
So those 2 tracks are that different, you're saying? So that
yeah, I think so. To me, they are anyway. But yeah, the this was just something very different to throw into a review.
Brilliant.
It isn't going to get much radio airplay. I don't think that's what they're after. But
it's not background music, is it? Really, it's not. It's not music to do the ironing to.
Maybe it is.
Well, not
for some, like,
not in anyone else's
some.
house apart from possibly yours, Rich. Man.
But I suppose how does this music relay on a live situation? I wonder then.
Well, they've never played live.
Mm.
They were
Can it be played live? I wonder.
They were going to. They almost played Roadburn, but after the Ghosts album, which is another 2-track album that they did. But obviously, Dead Neanderthals are in Holland, and Skeleton Witch are in Ohio, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So they I don't even know whether they got together to record it. They might have done, but they almost played it in Roadburn, but it didn't happen.
Okay.
Although they have said in interviews that they really, really want to make it happen after this album. So I'm sure if it does come nearby, I'd be interested to go and see that.
Can I just raise a point of order? Can a 2-track release be regarded as an album, despite the fact it's 35 minutes? Does it qualify on length alone?
It's 40 minutes long, Rich.
Okay.
You can't have a 40-minute EP.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one for discussion sometime, because there are bands with 40-minute EPs, and like Goddess and Astronauts Ghost Tapes is only 36 minutes long. It's an album, So
there are some hardcore albums that don't reach 15 minutes.
Yeah.
For the Bell Witch album is one song for 85 minutes. So is that an EP?
That's fair. That's a fair point, actually, Tim. I'll take it all back. I forgot about Bell Witch.
Yeah, on that bombshell. So there you have it, guys. Look, that's the 6 tracks for this month. We've had Green Lung, Umoora, Mairu, As Friends Rust, Obsidian Tide, and Dead Neanderthals, lads. I hope anybody that's listening in goes and checks out these bands at their Bandcamp pages. Even stream it on Spotify, get a bit of a taster for the bands, and then just catch them live if they're in your city. As always, Rich B, Rich M, Tim, lads, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been good fun again.
It's been good fun again, as always. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Again, any bands listening in and any bands want their music reviewed, don't be afraid to drop it to smashingskullsessions@gmail.com, or just get in touch through Instagram or Facebook. That's it till next month. Thank you, everybody. Stay in touch. Cheers. Bye-bye.